Coming at you from New Jersey, the capital of misery, and the place where metal forgot to die.
This is the Here Lies Metal Notes new music review. I'm Samantha.
And I am Maledictus. We shall be your overlords for today and all of eternity. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, what's going on here today?
Today we are discussing the band Sepulchral Triumph.
My God.
With their album Saturnian Mysticism. So this is a black metal band. They formed apparently 2021 from Argentina. They feature Buell Pest, all instruments and vocals, one-man band. We do have a note here for this album. We have a session member, RP, on the drums. We've got a real drummer. So this is their debut. No other prior releases that we know of, released independently on Bandcamp on September 2nd, 2022.
All right, folks. Now it's time for the official Here Lies Metal, the official and exclusive Here Lies Metal 5-point bi-directional classification scale, including the categories of genre loyalty, listenability, production style, music complexity, and just plain fun. Either side of this scale means good or bad. Let's get on with business. Is this true or nonconformist?
I'm going to say it's a 1.5 for almost completely true black metal.
True.
We have all the elements. We've got lo-fi production, which we'll talk a lot more about later. We've got blast beats, got tremolos, we've got a shrieking, rasping vocal. Got a lot of atmosphere, of course. There's some limited synth use of the organ variety. He seems to prefer to create atmosphere, like using this droning guitar sound, which I found kind of interesting. Yes. There are some true cult riffs on here. Check out the second interlude and the final song to hear the most cult selections, I would say. But the most distinctive sound on this album is the highly melodic guitar lines, exploratory, stretched out guitar passages. On Bandcamp, this is tagged as medieval black metal. And as a practitioner of the arts of early music, I can definitely hear the influence in these guitar parts. And that's doing a lot of the work of pulling this from a 1 to a 1.5 of true black metal. But I'm going to say that the medieval elements, they're more of like a flavor hint than like the main course. Only coming to the fore with like the occasional guitar lick here and there. Otherwise, we are predominantly very true black metal feel. And the other curveball on this album are the occasional guitar solos. This guy likes to play guitar. He plays a lot of beautiful guitar parts, and he likes to solo too, which is not in itself something I associate with true black metal. And these solos can be extended and bombastic and sound a bit heavy metal or even a little thrashy. So, but overall, very dripping with black metal, despite those two elements I mentioned.
Dripping with black goo.
Dripping.
You are covered in goo. Pleasure disclaimer, folks. All usage of the word cult in this paragraph is spelled with a V, and no animals were sacrificed during the making of this review. Okay, this album reminds me of the good old days of black metal, which who couldn't want that? It reminds me of those old days when, you had one guy making black album, one or two dudes, and, just being crazy together.
Those days have never gone away.
That's true. They never have with black metal. Black metal is a very traditional thing for the most part. And it reminds me of that, and that's a good thing. So is it Sonic Terror, or is it just the Red Hops?
I'm going to say it's a 2 on the Sonic Terror end, which is a terrifying score, but definitely not as hard as it can go, even for black metal. And it's because I feel a little conflicted here, because as I mentioned, we have these extremely hauntingly beautiful and engaging guitar parts, which are alternatingly melancholic and triumphant. But on the other hand, we've got plenty just standard black metal blast beat sections, which are less melodic and pleasant. So we've got two things pulling in opposite directions here on this album.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of everything. This has the standard amount of Sonic Terror for any given lo-fi black metal, I would say. I'm getting most of that. If you made like one of those circle graphs, most of the color of that would be in the vocals, obviously. The rest of your instruments aren't really going that hard in my ears, as black metal usually does for you. It's not as like brutal as death metal. It never was to me.
It's not as heavy.
Yeah, obviously it's not meant to be as heavy.
It's as heavy as black metal usually is.
Yeah.
I will also note that they favor a long song formats. There's 2 interludes on the album, but all the main songs are north of 9 minutes. 9 minutes of linear paths through a haunted and decaying castle. You will hear beautiful medieval melodies, but also hideous screeching and pounding drums. And speaking of the drums, the snare sound. Let's talk about the snare sound. I almost didn't want to do this album due to the snare, so we'll move on to the production quality.
That brings us to the next category.
The production style section of Fisher-Price to High Production. Now, Dictus, what do you think?
Yeah, so that snare track, the mix is a little bit strong on that snare. The little lever, the little fader on that snare was like all over here, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, when they're doing a blast beat section, like that snare is louder than everything else.
Like I couldn't hear any.
And it sounds like a piece of cardboard. Would you say that?
I don't want to, I don't want to, I don't want to give, I don't want to like, I mean, I like cardboard.
You like? I mean, it could be worse. There are worse drum sounds. Like there is a certain drum sound in more well-produced black metal that I detest. And this certainly isn't that. I just feel like the mixing on it is strange, and I also feel like it's a little inconsistent. Like the first song is very noticeable, that snare. And then later on in the album, it got ironed out a little bit. Yeah. So I don't know if that's a mixing issue.
Yeah. That's just criticism. That's not like a negative thing. Stay tuned. I have better things to say about the production of your album. All right. We both have better things to say about the production of your album. Just as one little quirk. All right. So, that drum is a little bit strong. That snare drum is a little bit strong. But remember, like, this is black metal, obviously. And less than perfect recording quirks is more of a feature than a bug when you're dealing with black metal. You guys are certainly not the only black metal album ever made to have something weird that someone's like, that's a little bit loud, or that's a little bit, I can't hear those drums. It's black metal, Sepulchral Triumph seems to have, the classic production of true black metal, naturally composed, and recorded by, 1 or 2 musicians. And, the production resembles that of a disturbing sound echoing from, say, like a half-sunken castle you stumble upon in the frozen wastes of Skyrim. We've all been to those castles out there in the wastes of Skyrim. You've all went inside them, as black metal does, the bass doesn't seem to be that crucial in this mix. I'm not really hearing a bass. Doesn't mean it's not there, but it's not dominant. There's definitely an overbearing guitar, as black metal goes. It's issues about the guitars, and the screeching vocals, and the drums, they're there, they're real, but they're a bit sloppy. They're going off time a little bit. Like I said, this is black metal. This is like, this is very similar to punk rock.
I mean, I want to say, like the rest of I have no issue with the rest of the recording. But I feel like I'm someone who's kind of particularly picky about how the drums sound, and I let the drum sound ruin a lot of things for me. But I feel like this really emphasizes just how beautiful I found the rest of the album. That I was like, I'm going to overlook the snare sound that I would normally immediately stop listening to if I heard anywhere else. And you do kind of grow accustomed to it. But I'm just saying, I made a big exception to.
Yeah, at first that snare is kind of
drum rules.
It's kind of hammering a nail into your head, but it goes away after.
I would be interested to hear like a real, like I don't consider myself a true black metal fan.
True black metal.
How a true black metal fan feels about the drums here, because I'm just out of my depth.
Not at that level. What's next? Not enough notes or too many notes? What is it?
We're getting a 4 for a lot of notes, many notes, not too many, but many.
All kinds.
Black metal usually has a lot of notes, and the extended exploratory guitar lines and solos push it even further into too many notes. And I'll say there's a lot of notes, but like you mentioned, some of them are a little sloppy. I feel like we get off time. You desync from the drums at times. Yeah. It's a little loose.
Kind of miss a little bit.
It's a little loose.
Sloppy.
I mean, it's fine with me, but...
Sloppy. These solos, let's talk about the solos. They're a bit conventional for black metal, I must say. And that's a nice touch, that kind of keeps you connected to the world of the living instead of disappearing to that dark depths of the sound. There's a hand reaching out from the light saying, no, grab my hand, don't go down to hell. There's still hope. I also have to point out, you sort of have these interludes. I call them, when the first time I heard them, I called them musical load screens. and like there's interludes between tracks. That's what they remind me of. Like
they are 2-minute interludes,
right? So it's almost like a load screen on a slow computer, right? It takes 2 minutes.
They're not just like ambient either. There's stuff going on them,
right?
But they are notably shorter than
their they're
songs.
kind of repetitive, a little bit, right? And think of it as when you're like entering this foreboding precipice of the aforementioned sunken Draugr Castle, and the music played before the interior loads up, like in between. That's kind of what that is.
You're loading up a 2002 game.
Yeah, it's slow. It takes a while. You get the typical, and then after that, when the real music starts, you get that typical black metal, high note scale, the black metal scale, as I call it, played in that rapid staccato, as black metal does. That's basically the core of black metal guitar. There's a method to it. And you get that it focuses on really high notes rather than crushing down tune chunks. Like as black metal does. It's not about crunch. It's more about like atmosphere. And you also get that kind of some songs. You get that classic pogo punk rock kind of.
Yeah,
beat.
they pulled out. I noticed it was pretty rare, but it did poke through.
Yeah, as opposed to like the the usual double bass, and the blasts. But you always get that. You'll get that because that's like just kind of like a core virtue of punk rock, because it's punk rock, but it's black metal.
Not all black metal falls back on that, and I appreciate it when it does.
Right, it's like an old school thing. It's like the basic black metal, right? From the old days. And like you have like like songs like Under the Yoke with a Great Cataclysm, has that double bass, which goes really well with that. But these guys, they study that great book of black metal well, and they practice all the methods and they utilize them very well. So they're well versed in the ancient teachings of black metal. Next we have fun or focused. What is it?
Okay, well, as true black metal is always a 5 for focused. Almost completely true black metal, as we're talking about here, is a 4.5 for almost completely focused. Don't get me wrong, there is a lot of darkness and evil on the album. Track titles like Secrets of Endless Darkness, Saturnian Poetry, and The Sacrilegious Gospel. The vocalist he's doing a tortured cry, many serious riffs, ominous organ passages. But I mentioned the extremely melodic and beautiful guitar parts are often darkly triumphant. They sound kind of like a parade or a procession of evil. It's evil, but it's still a parade, which is kind of fun. And I also like that this album is not about Satan, but I don't know. I'm not sure what it's about. Maybe some like esoteric mysticism. I'm not really sure what Saturnian means.
Like Saturn. Yeah.
Like related to Saturn, but I don't know what that means when it comes to mysticism.
Comment down below.
And it has a very mysterious flavor rather than just being like, oh, we're so evil, Satan, and like
Satan.
I know. Well, I feel like maybe it's a rite of passage to go through that with black metal, but I appreciate black metal that has
different flavors of black metal.
Is doing evil in a different way.
Yeah, it's a different. It's a more esoteric kind of evil.
And doing it like this is a little bit more fun for me, which is pulling it slightly into the fun side. And also, this is abandoned castle music, as we've, I think, said that like 4 times now. Yeah. You can imagine this as the soundtrack of exploring the dungeons and empty turrets, and you're kind of being followed by the decrepit former lord, and he's shrieking at you.
The AI wasn't that good. He wouldn't follow you for that long.
This is real life.
Oh, real life? Oh, no, that's scary.
But, abandoned castle stuff, that's fun. That's kind of fun. So the music is deadly serious, except for maybe the couple evil parades that happen in there. But
parades.
I find abandoned castle music has to be... it's got a little bit of a funness to it.
Yeah. I don't like to think of it as real life. I think of it as a Draugr castle, a Draugr-infested castle, where the evil echoing screams originate from the throne room deep within the lower level. When you get to like the sub-basements of the castle, and think of it just the Dark Lord in there just echoing, reading spells, and echoes through the hallways. And you're looking for this magical sword you requested to find, guarded by high-level Draugr necromancer, with powerful frost magic. When you're at a low level and you get hit by that frost magic, forget it, you're done. So that's pretty focused. The idea of that, to me, is pretty focused. So lay down your soul for the gods of rock and roll, black metal.
All right, stop quoting Venom. It's very untrue. Okay, let's discuss the art.
What is this artwork?
All right.
Oh,
You have a credit. The artwork is by L. Longinus.
that goes very well. I think that's Saturn right there. Maybe that's Saturn right there. The
Okay,
god.
so we're referencing the Roman god.
Right? That's what it looks like. Because he got that beard. They all gotta have that beard, though. I can't really confirm that that's Saturn.
Saturn is the Roman god of the sea, the version of Neptune.
Is that what it is? I thought he was time or something. He was Kronos. Am I wrong about that? Let's look that up.
We need a fact check on that.
Fact check. Fact check. Stand by. Stand by for fact check. Stand by. I think it's he's the time god. Saturn is Rome and the Kronos is the Greeks. Kronos.
Okay, yeah, Saturn is the Greek god.
Yeah. Oh, Saturn's the Greek god.
No, in Roman myth, Saturn was identified with the Greek god Kronos. So you're right. Exiled from Olympus by Zeus,
He's a bad boy.
and he ruled Latium in a happy and innocent golden age where he taught his people agriculture and other peaceful arts.
That's
Sounds
nice.
like a great guy.
Yeah, that's not you. They always throw out the good guy.
Like those old school gods are usually pretty rough.
The guy they
Pretty,
throw out of like the heaven, like is usually not doing really bad stuff. You know, that's all right. But anyway, I think that looks like a Saturn kind of thing. I could be wrong about that. Just reminds me of that. There's like ruins of this ancient city here, and this guy here, this guy or gal, is worshiping
Yes, I
this
feel like
Saturn.
maybe this monk has made a pilgrimage to an ancient ruin.
We're gonna call this Saturn here.
And he's gonna revive the worship of Saturn.
Yeah, it's like the head fell, kind of like the Statue of Liberty on Planet of the Apes. You know, just the head fell off the statue, where it's like his real head. You know, or like remember when that big head on Clash of the Titans falls, right? And it's talking to them. It's like this giant statue. You know what I'm talking about? It's like, remember?
I haven't seen that.
If you know what I'm talking about, comment down below. It's like a head of some god. It fell off, or it was like Hera or something. I don't know, but yeah, that's what it kind of reminds me of. And it's talking to him.
I feel like we're definitely in like a forbidden
this is like a forbidden
valley.
Yeah.
You know,
This ancient town. It's something almost like Lovecraftian in a way. Some story,
very remote and rugged. And you had
story
to,
from like Robert Howard or something. Yeah, it's something like that.
but yeah, I think this is an appropriate cover for this album.
Yeah, that reminds me of it. It really makes me think of the album. Like there's sometimes covers are like I'm like what, but this one I totally think of what's going on here.
I don't know if I mentioned this, but I thought this album was really beautiful. So beautiful it overcame a snare drum that I didn't like.
Yeah, they made it better too. They got it. They're like, oh, that's a little loud.
I think there was
probably.
also one thing, like I make fun of a lot of black metal for having like the black metal drop, as I call it. You know, where there's some like bullshit like ambient noise, usually maybe like a church like.
Yeah, and then they go
yes, and then they drop the blast.
Yeah, they drop it. Sure.
And it's like
Don't scare.
It's like so predictable, and you can always hear it about
It's
to
like,
happen.
It's like I know it's coming next. I've been here before. We've all been here before, guys.
They did, I would say, kind of a version of it on song 3.
Yeah.
But it was so tasteful and done so well
They learned.
that I liked it.
They
So
changed it.
they're doing true black metal, but they're doing it in a very interesting way. And I'm a huge sucker for anything that's got early music in it. Any kind of early music influence on the black metal is fine. Even if it's just like here, I think it was kind of a little tinge. I'm still into it. I'm still here for it. And yes, very cool. I know this guy has a number of other black metal projects that I've listened to a few of them, but this is definitely my favorite so far.
And there it is, folks.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah, if you like what you saw, maybe subscribe. Maybe hit that thumbs up button, and subscribe to our Instagram, our Twitter, our Facebook, all that stuff. We're there. Yeah, look on the comment section down there. All the info is there, folks. All right. Thank you for listening. We'll see you again with another review very soon. Good night.